Cool. Well, this is the Hoosier Homes podcast. Last week we had Jim Wilson, who we both are friends with. You are recently with Real. You've been an agent for how long?
30 years.
30 years. Yep. So not very much experience, just minimal baseline
Scraping by.
contracts,
Yeah.
scraping by. Give us a little bit of your story, kind of intro to who Brian is, how you got into real estate. Doesn't have to be an hour long, life story, but just give us a little bit how you got from start to where you are now.
I had family, like it's kind of the old story that family had new people in real estate, and had one person in particular that very much was urging me in this direction and encouraging me. And I was looking a little bit at commercial, a little bit at the residential side, and what I elected to do, and I have had many people that I've advised over the years, because timing, getting into the business is, there are a lot of factors, but one of them definitely is timing is the right time to get in. And there are people that I've seen that take this on as a career, but the timing isn't quite exactly right, and it doesn't shake out. And my sense is, my experience is, you never come back. Like you kind of don't just have one shot at it, but a lot of people, that's how it ends up.
At least gets a bad taste in their mouth, maybe if it wasn't the right time,
Exactly.
Yeah. Didn't work out the way you wanted, and it's like, why would I go do that again?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have a credibility issue now too, because so much of it is rests on that reputation, credibility, and how those who know you perceive you versus the random stranger world. They're never going to know, but all the people that you know are going to know. Well, didn't you try to do that and you failed? Not literally they're saying that, but that's going to be in the back of people's minds. Are going to be colored by that. So for myself, and I was fortunate enough for me to be thinking this way at the time. I thought. I didn't study business type stuff in college, and I had no experience coming to real estate. I felt like it was an awfully big mountain to climb with my first baby steps, and I should go do something and get some experience. So I went to B Window and sold windows. Actually, I had another kind of a minor sales job, and a guy that worked there went to work at B, and he goes, "Hey, Brian, you should come over here." And that ended up being a huge blessing. It was a tremendous introduction to sales in general. And I carried a great deal of what I was able to develop within myself in that doing the window gig into real estate. And I am certain now that I don't know if I would have succeeded or failed without trying to do something else first and getting a little bit of experience and knowledge and background. But I'm dubious that it would have worked. I'm very grateful that I was fortunate enough to go do something. And what happened with the window gig was, and they called you in the morning, and they had like 3 or 4 leads, and they would give you an address and say, go. And you drive all over the state. And there was something that so much that transfers from any selling to real estate. I've seen people come from retail, for example, and a lot of that will transfer. But a big one for me, when I first got into real estate, I was killing it in open houses right away. I'm like, these aren't hard. There's nothing to it.
Yeah.
And with a little reflection in time, I came to realize when I was doing the windows, I had to walk into that house, and like 45 minutes later, they're buying $10,000 in windows, or they're never you're either going to make a sale right then or not.
Yep.
And there are some things that you learn, a lot of it the hard way from that experience. But I realized that's what I'm doing in open houses. Is I'm not like, oh, maybe they'll call me one day. I'm like, hey, I got like 5 minutes. This is either going to happen right now or it's not.
Yeah.
And it really pulled that out from a different selling experience. I would say you could do retail or you could do anything else that would be in the sales arena. There would be elements of that you would pull into real estate with you that would help you, as opposed to coming in completely raw. In my case, I was young. I was mid-20s and very sort of shy and backwards and introverted and all the things. So it would have been, it was tough enough. It would have been, I don't know how I would have done it without having gone to kind of toughen myself up a little bit and kind of bang my head against the wall a little bit. Had some failures, figured out a couple of things that succeed. So carried that into real estate. And then, so I knew I knew I wanted to do this for probably maybe a year and a half. It was about a year and a half that I went and did the window gig, and I thought, well, okay, I'm ready. So I went to the Tucker Company, which is kind of the big local one here. And then I sold for about 7 years. And that would have been from mid-90s. I started in 95. So it'd be 30 years this year. And
It's a long time.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm 28.
yes,
So,
yeah.
I mean, you've done it from longer than I've been
I was
alive.
just a couple years
Yeah.
younger than you in starting. So one day you'll be old and
Yeah.
decrepit like
Yeah.
me. Um, but I had no, for myself, just personally, kind of the way I'm put together and the things that I'm passionate about, feel strongly about, and have a sense of mission and want to throw myself into, really wasn't selling,
Yeah.
which it was just for me personally. I love selling. I enjoy it. Immense respect for those who succeed, which real estate's the great cauldron of, you see an awful lot that don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would always, over the years, whenever I'd hire new staff people in the office, and they would come to work the phones or the desk or some of the administrative things, without exception, every one of them I would tell in the interview, I'd say, when you're here, look around. Everybody that you see here, every single realtor that you see here is kind of amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Because anybody that made it
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
you're going to see them like come and go and
Yeah.
go and go and go and go. The ones that make it are extraordinary and they're exceptional. They're just, every single one of them is doing something amazing, because I've yet to see the mediocrity come in and not really try and put a lot of effort in, but it still works for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really the
Yeah.
nature of it. I got way on a tangent there, but
No, that's a good,
so
that's a good tangent just for realtors in general.
Yeah.
That, I've been thinking about this. I don't know if it's actually a quote or if it's something I just made up, but I was telling my son to do something. He was trying to put his pants on. He's 3 years old. And he, sometimes he'll just stand up, put them on, like it's no problem. And other times he'll sit there and like whine and cry about it, trying to put his legs in. I'm like, Jed, if you put in 1% of effort, you're going to get 1% of results. Like, you can't expect to put in 1% of effort and get the result you want. You can't expect to have your pants on. You need to, if you're going to do it, do it. If you're not going to do it, don't expect for it to just happen for you. So to your point,
yeah,
realtors who come in and they just, phone it in or expect friends and family just to fall in their lap to go sell their house for them. Like, so you might get some of that. And we talked about this the other day, like the beginning of your career, year one, you might get, a handful of those or 10 of those or have a great year. And then, at some point those are going to stop because they're not going to just keep buying. But yeah, to your point, you just can't just show up. I feel like that's the stereotype too for realtors, that you just show up and you make 10 grand on a transaction. Like that's just the stereotype that it's that easy. And, certain times it is like, sometimes you just show one house or you list one house, you get 10 offers. Like, it's the easiest transaction ever done. But, everything that you've done in your career leads up to that. It's not,
right.
It's not just home runs every single time.
I would always say that with respect to compensation too, is the analogy that always sticks with me. They talk about airline pilots, and they're overpaid their whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And then in like 30 seconds, they earn all the money they ever made in their whole. Well, we don't have lives in our hands. That's not a direct analogy, but I look at like the easy transaction, and somebody pays me a lot of money and I don't really necessarily have to do that much in that instance.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, over the course of time, you earn exactly what you get, exactly what you earn.
Yeah.
You get exactly what you should get.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit sort of socialized. Maybe these guys that have more gave you more, and these that don't have as much give. But over time, and then we did discuss that the other day, that the phenomenon that luck is a short-term phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
And so one can have great good fortune or bad luck in the near term, but over time it vanishes.
Mm-hmm.
There is no luck. And so in the bigger picture with your career and working in real estate, especially as much as any profession I can think of, you control your fate.
Mm-hmm.
Again, maybe not this week, maybe not today. You might work your tail off and everything goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But you stick with this for month after month and year after year, and you're going to find out you're going to be exactly where you put yourself.
Yeah.
And when this actually goes back to my B window days and my sales manager there, he said, he had a few good ones. He said, one of them was discipline is your friend.
Mm-hmm.
But he had one that he dropped on me, and then these wonderful aphorisms that over your life, they mean something a little bit different, when I first heard it, and then it meant something later.
Yep.
And he said, Brian, wherever you are exactly where you think you deserve to be. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
let me
Yeah.
think about that one for a while.
Yeah.
But like any of those great aphorisms, it can mean a little bit, it can mean a lot of different
Mm-hmm.
things. But I think it's very true in real estate to always remind yourself you are exactly where you think you deserve to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like this is an oldie but goodie, but it's the old, if you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's in that same category.
Yeah. Yeah. So you would attribute a lot of the, maybe not a lot, but like there is the mental block aspect of, sales and real estate and, not just real estate, but, windows and whatever it is that might be a sales job of, or any job really, of like, I don't think I can be, CEO of, I don't know, Amazon, pick a random one. Somebody's going to take it over after Jeff. He might already have that person in place, and there may be those literal blocks, but to your point of like the mental block of like, if you're already telling yourself you're not going to be more than 100,000 or 200,000 GCI realtor, then that's probably where you're going to land. Like, you're probably going to do all that work, and then once you get to that point, like, oh man, this is uncharted territory, we're not going to do more than this. And then it has its own weird way of working itself out in that way of, like I would love to do listings and showings and houses in Zionsville. Granted, what have I done to actually make that happen? Very little to nothing.
Always a good question. Yeah.
I haven't actively done anything to get to there yet. And, I've got other things I got to take care of to get there. So it's not like a one where I'm like, I keep myself up and that's what I want to be. But when I look down the road, I would love to do that. So it's the practical aspect of like, like you said before, you can't just expect it to happen. But also, if I don't think I can actually be, there's one realtor, I think her name is Janelle. I think that's the right name. She's with Compass, but she's been like the top one.
Salazar?
So I think Salazar, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
She's been like the top realtor for Compass she has some for like 30. It's a long time. Like, how do you even get to that point? And, someone's going to take that place at the top at some point whenever she stops or whenever she dips. So it's just like, being able to not envision. I'm not a big like, envision and you're going to get there, but also like make actionable steps to get to that point and backtrack of how, you need to actually put things in place to get there.
Right.
And you can't expect to go from here to there overnight. Like, you need to put in the time, put in the effort. And I don't know about window sales, but with like property management, there's people I've talked to for years that we are just now signing. And I would have loved to sign them, 2 years ago and made all that money until then. Yeah. But sometimes you just have to keep building the relationship and keep playing. And it's the same thing for realtor work. You're nurturing people for years in the sense of like, hey, I'm here if you need me. I'm here if you need me. I'm here if you need me. And then whenever they need you, you're there.
Yeah.
If you need it right away, the instant gratification, they might, feel that. And then down the line, they're going to be like,
So I was just thinking about our less mature and our less effective and our less profitable tendencies. Among those would be the instant gratification versus seeing the little bit bigger picture and seeing and that's where sometimes just being only accountable to ourselves can be tough.
Yeah.
Because we're all going to sort of tend towards a little more instant gratification, a little less of the deferred. But yet when we have the conversation with someone else and that can help remind us of the bigger picture and remind us of keeping our own motivation in front of ourselves. Like, why am I doing this anyway? It doesn't really matter what I do today. Well, yeah, it doesn't matter what you do today, but a year from now, what you did every day for a year is really going to matter.
Yep.
It's going to be definitional. It's going to define exactly where you're at.
Yep. And not just for work, for anything, for anything in life. If you want to be, in great shape, you got to start. You got to start and make those daily habits. Yeah. You got to put down the Oreos, you got to start working out. You got to do the things that are actually going to get you to where you want to be.
And you were talking about vision and then the steps, sort of reverse engineering, like, well, if that's where I want to be, what has to happen between here and there that I'm going to end up there. And I always tell agents with business planning at the start of the year, I would strongly urge this to anyone in this business to think in these terms, that when you are making a business plan, and sometimes people will say, well, here's what I'm going to do, and then they figure out what that might result in. Or you might begin with, here are the results I want, so here are the things I'm going to do. I'm not real big on. I think it's a lot of that is personal.
Mm-hmm.
How does your mind work?
Mm-hmm.
Like I always say, there's two different kinds when it comes to goals. I need to set a crazy goal, and that's what will motivate me and get me shooting for the stars.
Mm-hmm.
Or I need to set a very realistic and reasonable goal because I'm the realistic type. So if I set the super high goal, 3 days into it, I'm like, I'm never going to make it. It's
Yeah.
completely demotivating.
Yeah.
But I understand the personality type, which is the opposite, which says, no, it has to be way out there to get me up and get me going.
Mm-hmm.
The important thing isn't which you are, it's just knowing which you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like whichever way, whatever works for you, being self-aware enough to know, like personally, I want to stretch a little with a goal, but I'm motivated to blow past it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know I can cream this thing and go through.
Yep.
So that's the way my mind works.
Mm-hmm.
I completely get the other kind of mindset. But larger point being, in making your, let's say, an annual business plan,
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to think in terms of how do you guarantee that you're going to achieve all your goals? Because I can guarantee it, absolutely guarantee that you can achieve every single goal you set for yourself this year. And here's how you do it. It's really simple. You come up with your business plan, and it's among other things, it's a set of actions. Here's the things I'm going to do. Now, all you have to do is make the execution of the plan is now your goal.
Mm-hmm.
Outcomes are whatever. They're fine. They're here in my mind. It's great. And I have a vision board and I see what I want. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
But if my only goal is to execute this plan, I now am in complete control.
Yeah.
Like whether or not I achieve every goal,
Yeah.
I'm just going to decide it each day. I'm going to get up and do it or not do it. So now if the outcomes are the goals, and I'm not disdainful of that, again, it's just different ways of thinking, but a lot of things can happen. And you might pour your heart and soul into something, again, in the near term,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it just doesn't pan out or certain things don't work. But if you say, well, no, my goal is just to do stuff, and here's the stuff I'm going to do, you can absolutely guarantee,
Yeah.
boom, I'm going to achieve every goal I set for myself this year because they're all my own actions.
Yeah. I love that. The idea of, controlling the things you can control and being okay with the things that you can't control happening, like you said, to your point, you may or may not be able to control the exact outcome, most likely not, but you can control the actionable steps that you did day in, day out to pursue that outcome. And you might find that once you get there, the outcome was not the thing you cared about anyways. You might go short, land further, or go left or right and not care what the original outcome was. I've had that happen to me plenty of times where we set out to do one thing and
Absolutely.
got a quarter of the way there and I was like, I don't even want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I enjoy this part of the process that we're doing, but I don't necessarily want that, outcome anymore.
Or when you try new things, I always say, I love to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you want failing? That stinks. No, I love to find out I'm wrong because then now there's one less thing I'm wrong about.
Yeah. That's
Like
true.
I know I'm wrong about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So every time I find out I'm wrong about something, that's a big win because now
Yep.
I'm not wrong
Check
about
that
it. Anymore.
off.
Now I know.
Yeah.
Which is again I'm getting a little to the side with, but so where I was kind of beginning with that is, well, sometimes you say, hey, I'm going to try blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And you do it and it doesn't work, but you're still perfectly fine because guess what? You made a conscious decision. It was based, it's an informed decision. I think this will work. Here are the reasons I think it'll work. Let's try it and let's do the following things. And you did all the things. It didn't work, man. That's fine. That's just another thing that you found out you're wrong about.
Yeah.
So now you won't make that mistake again.
Yeah.
If you can't, I love the book about mindset.
Mm-hmm.
The title I'm pretty sure is Mindset. And it talked about effectively, there's a growth mindset. And no, I can't remember the word for the other one. This is what happens when you get older. But, let's say more of a limiting mindset. And with the non-growth mindset, you are concerned with how you appear and how things look. It's a fixed mindset, growth and fixed. If you have more of a fixed mindset, you're not going anywhere because you can't make mistakes. You can't be wrong. The growth mindset, I don't care who sees me make mistakes. I don't care who sees me. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to the same thing because guess what? Now I won't make that mistake again.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be wrong about that. So in order to refine what you're doing, get better at it, eliminate waste, increase efficiency, enhance income, enhance effectiveness, both in your work But as a corollary in your prospecting and business development, I I just think it's fundamentally necessary to be of a growth mindset. Like, I'm going to try stuff,
Mhm.
and some of it'll stick and some of it won't.
Yep.
I don't really care what it looks like. I don't care if the guy in the next cubicle's laughing,
Mhm.
because he's probably not trying that much, and he's not going to get. And I'm okay with, I'll make any mistake.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge, it took me a while to learn this, but from like an entrepreneur standpoint to God just makes certain people built for certain things. Like I am built, sounds like you are built, like the risk, as I get older and I have a family and 3 kids, like I want some less risk. But, historically throughout our marriage, we've quit jobs, moved states, bought houses, sold, like just kind of just this, you know, throw it against the wall and see what sticks kind
oh
of
yeah,
mindset. And, but also just as an entrepreneur, you have to be okay with failing. Like if you're not okay with failing, you're not cut out to be with an entrepreneur, because
right.
you're going to fail over and over and over. You're going to spend money on marketing, you're going to spend money on this. You're going to try this idea. It's not going to work. Like lose money. Like we've lost plenty of money. It's just, but if you let the first, hiccup or first roadblock take you down, it's just not going to work. Do you find that there's, a certain thing in realtors specifically? I know this is a very hard question, but is there a certain characteristic or attribute that you could point to that, um, you would, if you could see them in 10, 20 years, you'd be
Yeah.
like, hey, I think this person's going to do well or not? Or is that,
That's a great question. It's kind of the $64,000 question,
yeah.
especially for um, after the 7 years, I went into became a manager, and that's a lot more where the passion lay for me. And the
Mm-hmm.
people that are managers or have been managers, or that's a direction they'd like to go. One of the things you're doing is you're bringing people into the business all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a very really strong, just ethical sense of like you're not. There's a lot in this business of can they fog a mirror? Cool, bring them in.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
I've never heard that
just
before.
yeah, you're not doing people any favors
Yeah.
that really shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
And so I discovered a few, some of them is a little bit contradictory things. One is you can't tell. I had so many people that I interviewed, and I thought, well, we'll give them a try. They,
Yeah.
they seem to want, and then they blow up and they're awesome. And then
Yeah.
I've had this with people. I'm like, this is a no brainer.
Mm-hmm.
This person's going to crush it. And like 4 months later, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
So part of it, you can't tell.
Mm-hmm.
What you can tell, you can't tell in an interview, but what you can tell in retrospect, specifically to your question, is definitely just wanting it. I would say work ethic, but it's almost more motivational. It's before the reason people have a work ethic to me is because of what they want and how much they want it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, by the way, how do they want it? There's a bifurcation there between immediate gratification and the deferred gratification.
Mm-hmm.
And those who have the emotional maturity, I think, to say, yeah, I'm not so worried about today. I'm much more thinking in bigger picture. That's a tremendous asset to have in this business,
Mm-hmm.
is thinking longer term. Having a growth mindset of, I'm not nearly as worried about what it looks like, what anybody thinks, as I am about what's going on here,
Mm-hmm.
what I want and why I want it, and what I'm going to do. So that, for example, those who are newer to the business, to be able to say, in my first year, I've got to look like this, I've got to achieve this, I've got to sell this, I've got to. I know a story I used to tell when I started. This was back in the day when there just happened to be a ton of people coming to the business. So I was in a training class that my office alone, I think there were 7 of us that started at the same time, all these new agents, which seems unusual now. Like I have one office, have 7 people.
Yeah.
But it was normal then. And I remember the other 6 were just selling this and that and all the other, and I was the last guy out of those 7 to make a sale. And I had a specific outcome goals that I had sort of pegged, and here were the inputs, the things that I was going to do. And I wanted to, over my first 3 months, this is also, it's a lot easier back then, just so you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a good new agent who was strong, not the rookie of the year, just a good agent would sell 10 or 12 houses in the first year, which is really much harder. But anyway, so I wanted to do 3 houses in my first 3 months. And at the end of, I'm coming in on the end of the 3 months, and all these other 6 have sold at least 1 house, maybe 2. And I had sold nothing. And another thing, this is Kate, I got this from Kate Souls, who does the marketing for First Property Group. She's terrific and she's brilliant, and I love Kate. And she shared this, and I think I'm going to maybe miss an attribute. She didn't come up with it, but I think she said it, maybe Teddy Roosevelt said, comparison is the thief of joy. Do you know that one?
Yep. Okay. Comparison is the thief of joy. Yep.
Yeah. So I just want to give credit to Kate, because I got it from her, and it stuck with me forever. And I was, fortunately, even in those early days, I was not despairing through comparison. I wasn't looking and going, oh my God, everybody's wonderful and I'm just not. I was just kind of keeping my nose to the grindstone and keeping the blinders on. Like, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. And then I had an open house at the end of the 3 months. And I had one couple that I was working with that I had their house listed. And then I had a couple walk into the open house and they wanted to buy it. And then, so suddenly I had a me and me. And then the people whose home I was selling, they bought another house that day. So I have three houses in one day. And that was in the last week of the 3 months. And the reason I would always share that story, and it always stuck with me, is it's such a very good, and I didn't make it up. It's a really good illustration of, like, don't worry so much about today and tomorrow, except in the fact you only worry about today. Don't worry about the future at all and your actions, but don't worry about today and tomorrow, except in the way that they contribute to the bigger picture, the longer term. Here's what I'm trying to do. If nothing happens today, whatever. I would always say, why have an open house this Sunday? If, let's say, if I'm going to, the best of us at open houses, maybe every 3 or 4 open houses, we'll get a buyer that leads to a closing. Well, then if I skip this Sunday, there's only 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 chance I'll even, why would that matter? Because I'm trying to do 36 open houses this year. If I don't do one Sunday, I'm never going to make it to the 36. So bigger picture, if that remains the focus, because on any given day, well, I'll just lay in my bed. It doesn't really, today, what's a big deal? I think it's imperative to have the bigger picture in your mind all the time.
Sure. 2 questions, and I don't want to lose either one of them, so I'm going to ask them both, and then we can talk about one. One, I want to know what you would think is the biggest difference between real estate 30 years ago and now, specifically like speed. That's kind of where I'm going with it. And then 2, the open house question, which is, interesting because I think about this a lot. I personally, please tell me if I'm wrong. I feel like open houses are a dying breed. I don't know a better way to put that. And we can start there. To me, open houses were bigger before, like Zillow, Realtor, Redfin, the amount of access that we have to properties now. Because, in the older days, you'd have to, have an agent get you like a packet basically to hand it to you for you to see pictures or information on the property. And you can only glean so much from some papers in front of you. And you don't have every other listing in Westfield's papers in front of you. You've got the, couple that, your realtor said, hey, your buy box is a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 3,000 square foot on Spring Mill, like whatever. And at any point, tell me if I'm wrong, because obviously I wasn't there. But like, this is how I envision it, is they would give you like that packet and, you've got that information. Maybe you requested some comps. They gave you some comps, whatever. But now, and then you go to an open house if your realtor's not busy, or just to get into the house, you go to a showing, whatever it may be. Or you don't have a realtor, and that's maybe the reason you're going to open houses. But now I feel like everyone's got a realtor, or at least has a mom or dad who's got a realtor, or a friend who's got a realtor. I feel like the percentage is very, very little in the population, and a lot of it's first-time home buyers, I would think. And the open house to me it feels a little outdated, just because it's it doesn't feel necessary. You know, you can see every listing, and you can see every listing in California if you want to look at it.
Yeah.
You know, you have so much access to everything that it just feels, you know, obviously, and I tell my clients, it's like going to the house is different. Like looking at it online, pictures can do one thing, but going to the house and walking through it is different than the pictures.
Night and day.
I've bought houses sight unseen, and whenever time I go to them, they're like, I didn't know that was there. Like I didn't see that in the pictures. And you know, you can edit pictures, everybody knows that. But even just from the layout of the home, even if you're looking at a floor, it just feels different. So obviously you still go to the house, but you know, give me your thoughts on, you know, you mentioned maybe 1 in 4, 1 in 3 potential. I've done open houses and I don't think I've ever gotten a buyer from them. Granted, I haven't done 36 in a year, so, you know, that's lacking, but I don't see it as a good use of my time,
Right.
which is maybe a bad thing. Maybe I need to be doing that more. But yeah, thoughts on that?
Very related questions because I was around for the dawn of, in real estate, the dawn of the internet. And it was just the greatest, like, I wish everybody could have the learning experience that period imposed on all of us, because what I thought I was getting paid to do and what I thought my value was, I was dead wrong about.
Yeah.
So I thought, well,
what did you think it was?
we're the source of information.
Yeah.
Nobody knows about these houses
Yeah.
without us.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be all out there.
Yeah.
We're gone. And then after the internet, the percentage of realtor use increased. They used us more than ever.
Interesting.
So there's a whole host of lessons there. One is I just gravely aged myself. I started,
You just said pre-internet, and I was there.
Pre-internet.
So yeah,
You're like,
yeah, you
I
definitely
wasn't really
aged
born
yourself.
yet. I'm like, well, I was doing real estate.
Yeah.
It was just a huge, broader lesson to me to stop and say, what is our value? One of my favorite exercises is I just call it white sheeting, meaning just go to a blank sheet of paper rather than go with all your preconceived notions and everything that you thought already. Say, like as a manager, I remember one time I did the exercise and I sat down and I go, well, what's a real estate office? Like, why does this even exist? And start at the very beginning. And one of the reasons I love it for a lot of reasons, but one of them is you really will find it will help you to weed out the superfluous and the unnecessary. So I kind of did that exercise. Maybe for the first time was in the wake of the arrival of the internet, and I'm like, well, that not only didn't phase us, we're probably going to make more money now. Clearly, I was wrong. See, I was wrong.
Yeah, there you go.
Now I'm going to know something I didn't know before.
Yeah.
So I learned something there that directly goes to your question. It goes to the open house thing, which is most of our value. And I could be wrong about anything. I've seen it borne out repeatedly that most of our value is not replaceable with the internet, AI, any machine. Most of our value is relational. It's experiential. And it is emotional because it's trust. And my brother's a doc, and he told me one time that we may have talked about this the other day.
Yeah, and I think I heard you say duck the first time. I was like,
duck, that's right.
Your brother's a duck.
He's a duck. That's right. And but he told me this fabulous study that said that the leading determinant of whether a doctor will face malpractice suits, and you might assume it's their training or experience or how, are they good? And the number one thing was their bedside manner. And I apply that to real estate, saying, I'm going to come back to your question.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
But I apply that to real estate, saying I've gotten away with a million mistakes because I just will own that it's a mistake. And I begin a relationship and maintain a relationship with a client on the basis of, hey, I might mess up. If I do, here's what I will do about it. Here's where we'll be, rather than that's more in that growth mindset rather than I'm perfect. I'm not going to mess up. I think that one of the reasons people make excuses is because if you've set yourself up like that, well, now you have made a mistake or something has gone in some sort of untoward manner. Now what do? You got to cover it up somehow. So what got me onto that tangent was talking about trust and the emotional element of the work that we do. So in reevaluating, saying, well, I thought we were the guys with the books, with the information on the listings. And now that the whole world has that at their fingertips, they need us more than ever before.
Mm.
That's got to mean has to be something profound there that I need to study. And so that was it, was simply understanding the relational nature of the work that we do. It's the human nature of the work that we do. And that the need for us, it does go way beyond the mechanics and the facts and the dry, and these statistics or whatever.
So you would say, pertaining to open houses, maybe not, maybe a little bit, but when the internet came on, everyone's got access to it. You think your number one attributing factor to realtors being used more was the fact that the relationship aspect? That's what you would say, or that's what you know. That's what you would.
It's kind of the only conclusion I can draw, right?
Yeah.
Because
that's interesting.
The stuff that I thought we were the keepers of, we don't keep it anymore, and they still need us.
Yeah.
So specifically to the open houses, we'll go back to the original question about what's that's most different now. It's definitely, this is not a brain surgeon answer, but it's the tools. So what's available to use to amplify the work that we do, which is what a tool is going to do. It's going to take what you're capable of and make it easier or faster or more effective or bigger or better in some way. All the stuff that we have, to me, a really easy example is social media. And I always say, man, I've been around long enough. When I started in 95 and we had to figure out, postcards, and we're sending them to strangers, and if you had come up to me in 1995 and you said, hey, there's a thing, you can reach out to everybody that you know at any moment. They're all going to see it. It's going to be in the palm of their hand. I would have said, that's such a dream. I can't even, you couldn't dream something that would work more effectively and here it is.
Yeah.
And you become immersed in it, and then you're used to it. And so you're kind of inured to it, but it still is kind of miraculous. And so I just think the more that we can kind of remind ourselves of that, the more effective we can be in using some of these tools and realizing how amazing some of them really are. And I would white sheet them too. Okay, but how do you use Insta, or how are you using Facebook? Do you have a specific plan? Or are you just kind of going to copycat what some other people seem to be doing?
Yeah.
To what end are you doing it? For what purpose? What are you hoping will come of it? I found out pretty early in, not necessarily early in Facebook days, but early in starting to use it more comprehensively and more as a business tool, that it's incredibly manipulable, if that's a word. But you can just manipulate the crap out of it. And so I did. I'm shameless about, I have no shame about it. I understand that you're curating, an existence and a life and as long as you don't, I think if you're self-aware about that, and you understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. There were strategic choices that I made in the work sense of well, here's what I really would like to come of this, and here's what I would like to, and there were really specific ends and goals that I had in mind, and that it all really clicked together exceptionally well in that regard. I got so far on a tangent there, I don't even know where I started. Okay. No, I'm going to. I do need to finish.
Yeah.
Well, the things that are different now are mostly tools, which is great because it's not we're making ourselves less relevant and less necessary, and we're inventing ourselves out of existence. Maybe someday, but not in our lifetimes.
For 25, 30 years ago, days on market, what would you say the average was?
You wanted to sell a house within 3 months.
Yeah.
So if it was
astronomically different.
It's a different.
Because now if someone sits for 3 months, people are like, "This is the worst property I've ever seen."
Hey, I probably in my office, which was it was the Castleton Tucker office at that time. It was really a big office, 80, 90 agents. And I bet in my first year, I maybe heard of one or two multiple offer situations. That's in everything. That whole office sold the whole year. So that didn't exist. Yeah. And then there was the the miracle where you'd see somebody that said, "Man, I sold that listing in like 10 days."
Yeah.
And that was a one in a blue moon.
Yeah.
You instantly started thinking, "Oh crap, did I underprice it? What went, something's
Hmm.
wrong."
Yeah.
So yeah, so um,
It's such an interesting thing. We human beings have such short-term memory. That's why I've never in my life cared about history. Like I am not a history buff. It never has interested me until like the last couple of years getting into business of, trends and how things used to be and how things are now and stuff way long ago too, also just from the interesting standpoint of it. But, for real estate, that's not that long ago. 20 years ago is not that long ago for us to be thinking that 5% is an extremely astronomical interest rate for things to sit on the market for past one weekend. And now we
mhm.
think, we're never going to sell our house or whatever. We just have such an instant gratification and instant like feedback. And, you know, honestly,
Recency bias.
recency
Yeah.
bias. And it's probably a social media issue. That definitely plays into it.
Mhm.
Um, your phone, you can get any answer you want, and you don't have to go read a book. You just Google that exact question. It tells you the synopsis of whatever. I mean, it's just, you know, it begs the question on if we're better off now than if we're better off now than before iPhone and internet and all these things. And, you ask 100 people, you get 100 different answers. You can use it for good. It's a neutral thing.
Right.
It can be used in any direction. But the access is incredible. And I just think real estate moves so fast now, and not just real estate, like business. I tell people like the 8-hour workday to me is a little bit of an outdated thing
Mhm.
because, 20, 30 years ago, I equate it to like the ledgers for us, the bookkeeping for property management. I go on there and I can scroll up and down. I look at how it did all the math for me, make sure it all checks out, maybe double check a couple of them, add some charges, take things away, whatever. And I exported a report and I sent it to the client. Like it takes me all of 5 minutes. Somebody used to have to sit there with a pen and a
Oh yeah.
paper and a calculator, and they'd have to receive the check from the tenant. They'd have to mark down a charge, receive the check from the tenant, send them a receipt, mark it on the ledger, date it, probably sign it, something I don't even know. And then if they wanted it, either make a hand copy of it to send it to the owner, or if use a copy or whatever. It's just exponentially such a longer process. So when you think about the 8-hour workday, we can now get so much more work done in an 8 hours than we used to be.
Yes.
And the expectation, I'm an employer, I have employees. My expectation is that they fill their entire workday, but now the workday is so like pedal to the metal, getting so much done. And then you almost set those expectations on yourself and for your employer of, I did this today. Now how much work I can get done. Now
Right.
tomorrow needs to be the same. The day after that needs to be the same. And for me as a business owner, I do that to myself of like, if I have a slow day, I'm like, something's broken. We're not doing something right. I didn't sign any clients. I didn't go look at any houses, I did
Right.
whatever it may be. And it's just created this like speed and, I don't know if it's good for the human, like, experience of work because you get burned out so fast. I don't know, just I'm kind of rambling at this point, but it's just interesting how, things used to be so different. Things used to be slower, like 3 months on market. You probably
Right.
get people in your car, you drive around to 5 different listings on a Saturday. Then they go home and they talk about it for a week. They let you know their top two. Maybe you go back to them.
Uh,
Now it's like, hey, we saw this house, and this house. Let me know in the next hour. I'll write the offer. We'll send it.
well, we used to when I started. Yes, when I would show houses, I would pick out the houses that they're going to see because
Hmm.
they had no other way of
Yeah.
knowing what. And
Yeah.
so we would get in the car,
Hmm.
and they would have no idea
Yep.
well,
Yep.
that was perfectly normal, and I couldn't imagine another world. And
Yeah.
now I can't imagine that world because I think it's really interesting in the sense of meriting some real thought. The question of uh, maintaining value neutrality about it's not necessarily good or bad unless it just depends on what do we think of it and how do we use it. We're
Hmm.
going to determine the good or bad. I wonder sometimes with the what used to be 90 days and now it's going to sell immediately. There are so many market forces at play there, but also is maybe just some of the efficiency of the business part of it too.
Yeah.
Because like you said, all the stuff that used to take forever,
Now
and
just
now
is
you can
out there.
snap your finger
Yep.
and it's done.
Yep.
So that's probably part of it. But um, an exercise that I think is really important too, as the new tools arrive, well, you talked about the speed, the velocity of change. I would contend, I suspect there are a lot of people that are in my age and experience cohort that would agree with me. But I always say that in the last 5 years, things changed more than they did in the previous 25.
Mm-hmm.
And the speed of the change, the velocity of change, is much greater than it ever used to be. I think business owners in particular, I think agents for sure, but brokers especially, need to keep that in the front of your mind and be aware of how that impacts you directly. How is that going to affect your bottom line? And how does one maintain relevance and avoid irrelevance when you're in the middle of a whitewater rapids that are shooting
Mm-hmm.
downstream faster than you can swim?
Yeah.
So there is a way through, but it's not going to be by just spectating and seeing what the next guy does.
Yeah.
I always feel like I felt like with that. So I managed that office for 18 years, and I always felt like I would rather that we create the future than wait and see what the future brings to us. Let's decide what the future is going to be. Then other people will go, oh, what are they doing?
Yeah.
We better get on that train because
Yeah.
it's going. And I'd rather be
Yeah.
in the engine that's at the front of the train. And by the way, you'll still make mistakes, but one of the things I would really encourage from an agent standpoint as you contemplate, what am I going to try? What are some new things every year? I'm going to throw some new things into the mix. Understanding where we need to not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And we don't have to have the perfect answer. Just have an answer and try something. Because if we don't, then we are waiting for the future. And sometimes that'll work okay and we can react to it and adjust. I just feel like that's a passive posture, and it's one that does not conduce to greater success in the long run. The more that you can just make decisions, I found out, if I'm going to sit around until I'm sure I have to know I'm dead right about this before I try it, you're not going to try anything.
Yeah. Analysis paralysis.
Yeah. Just to say, you know what? Other people may end up thinking of better things, but this is what I think. And by God, I'm going to try it. We're going to go do it. And what my experience tells me, right or wrong, is that's actually how the future happens. And the trailblazers and the people that get out ahead, it's not because they're the one person that perfectly figured out, they figured out that was the future. They decided they're going to try that, and it became, that's the future now, right? Yeah. So to me, the bigger lesson, the larger issue from the way that we mentally approach our work is not letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. Don't get stuck in comparison, which is the thief of joy. Think of, what am I doing and why am I doing it? That was one of a simple thought that I was always telling myself. This is like Jack Handy. Like, you are good. You're okay. You probably don't know Jack Handy.
No, I don't.
It's old Saturday Night Live. The old people know exactly what I'm talking about. But he would do, happy thoughts with Jack Handy. And like it was quite humorous. But the one that I always like, the Jack Handy thing, but it's like, I'm okay. I'm good enough. I'm okay. Like, I'm all right. I'm good enough. Just try whatever you thought of. It's okay. It's good enough. There isn't some genius out there that's having all these. There might be
epiphanies every day.
But a gift of age and experience is that eventually you realize, everybody's just faking it.
Yeah.
Like I thought I was a fraud, and we're all just a bunch of, if you can just be as authentic and open about who you actually are. It's been another lesson for me, is that if you are not, to every degree of greater authenticity you live, to every degree that you are sharing with the world who you actually are, the easier and happier your life is. To every degree that you're putting any kind of a front up or pretending to something you're not, or I know something I don't know, it just gets harder and harder. It becomes, it's the classic one of like, I told so many lies, I forget. Like, I don't even remember which lie I was telling. Well, that
Mhm.
can kind of be what you do about yourself. Like, I was kind of not really honest and open about who I am. I was trying to be this other thing and pretending to be this. And now I can't even remember, like, what did I say to who about what?
Mhm.
If you're always just owning it as best you can, there's nothing you don't need to remember,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And
It's way easier said
yeah,
than done.
way easier. Yeah. Don't speak out of ignorance, too. Like if you don't know the answer, it's okay. Yeah. Like I feel like
Yeah.
maybe it's my generation or we're just caught up in this. People think if you don't, maybe it is the instant gratification thing, but you think if you don't give them the answer right now, they won't use you as a realtor or they won't see you as a authority in the space or see you as knowledgeable in the space. And 99% of the time that's in your own head,
So
like,
that's providing us a practical example and practical illustration of some of the stuff we've been talking about the bedside manner
hmm
and what do agents actually do and what's important. The mistake isn't the issue at all. It's
hmm
who are you, and do I trust you, and do I feel sometimes um, I, I've told 100 people this. You can make a mistake and have people trust you more afterwards than they did before
hmm
because they're not like, well, does this guy know what he's doing? Instead, they're like, that guy's completely honest, told me
yeah,
exactly what's going on. I don't have to worry anymore that there's something happening that I don't know about
yep,
because this person just shared all that with me. So you actually, uh, it, it it tells us. You have to be very careful. Like, I don't want to denigrate the value and importance of mechanics, like the work that we do, getting the transaction right, getting the details right,
for
getting the
sure.
paperwork right. All those things are immensely important. And the better that you can marry them with who you are as a wonderful person and agent, great. Um, but always to me, the first thing is always, this is why a brand new agent can be one of the really great agents out there. It's because the first thing, first and foremost, who are you? Like, what are you made of?
hmm
The honesty, the character, the ethics, that's pulling the train. The rest of it is um, over time. Then you can hone all the mechanics of it. That's all the learnable stuff.
hmm
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've had like 1,000 thoughts during all of that. And now I'm blanking on almost all of them, but I think it's really good just to, take the exercise of just thinking, through not like what defines success. I don't think that's the right way to put it, but you know, a good career and a good working, citizen who's serving other people, um, it'll take any business to the next level. Just having the mindset of, I'm going to be a, man of integrity. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to tell you when I know, when I don't know. And, one thing I was thinking about when you're talking is the excuses or the outcomes of the lazy is not permissible. Like if I was just lazy in the mechanics of my job
yeah.
and I'm making mistakes all over the place, people are not going to be like, "Oh, I'm going to keep using you because I like you." That's not what we're talking about.
Correct.
If you're going to work
Exactly.
hard
It's
and
an
be like,
important distinction.
"Yes, yeah," if you're just going to be bad and lazy and not care, like, that's not
But if you're
permissible, it's not
trying
excusable. But yes,
and
if
they know
you're
you're trying,
yep.
and not just like, well, he's really dumb, but he's trying. No,
Yeah.
he knows what he's doing and he's trying to apply it well. But we can all
Yeah.
mess up. We're
Yeah.
all going to.
For sure. And there's grace in that, but working hard to correct it, working hard with, researching how to not do it again. I also tell people who work for me, and this is what I've tried to do in all of my jobs, and it's always worked out well, is don't just come to your boss or whoever it is or the client with a problem. Like come with the problem and then come with
Yeah.
2 or 3 solutions. Like
Yeah.
if all of the people who did stuff for me would come and say, "Hey, the water heater broke. I can either do this, or this. I can put in a new one. I can drain it and try and troubleshoot. I can replace this part. I can redo the piping, whatever." Like, I'm like, cool. Which one's which
Yeah.
one do you suggest? Like, I
Well,
don't have to figure it all out from my desk or, whatever the scenario is. It expedites the process and it means I can trust you and I can, give you more responsibility. So for your clients, if it's like, hey, the appraisal came back 10K under and I just stop there and they're like, okay, like what am I supposed to do? Like they
Right.
want you to provide solutions for them.
Yes.
So that was a random tangent, but just being people who are going to work hard for your people. And even if those solutions don't pan out perfectly, then you find more solutions and you find more solutions. Some things have consequences. Obviously it's not you can't speak generally to specifics. So like some things have consequences where, you know, it may not work out and maybe you have to own that. But, you know, just in a general rule, you know, being someone who can critically think and problem solve and create solutions and be honest with people. If you don't know the solution, say, I'll get back to you and I'll, you know, go ask someone who's been doing it for 30 years. You know, there's no shortage of realtors who've been doing this for a long time. And I think too, along with lines, what you're saying is, you know, in the book of Ecclesiastes, like there's nothing new under the sun. Like we're not going to,
There
like
isn't.
there's nothing that I'm going to do that's so fancy and
Yeah.
special that I'm going to be the top realtor in Indiana. But what is going to make me the top realtor in Indiana, if I wanted that, would be, you know, putting in the time, talking to people who have done it and working hard. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like you said, the outcome may be that, but what am I going to do actionably every day? You'd have to sit down and write that out. Like, how many transactions do I need to be that? How many people do I need to talk to make that many transactions? How many, you know, all the actionable things. And maybe you end up being that, maybe not. Maybe you decide you don't want to be that. But, you know, Elon Musk didn't sit down and think there's no electronic cars in the world. I'm going to make the best one. It's going to go this fast. It's going to go this. He just like,
It has to be perfect.
it doesn't have to, yeah, it's going to look exactly like this. The first time they unveiled the Cybertruck, he threw a rock through the window and said it was unbreakable. Like the dude looked like an absolute idiot on the stage, you know, and I can't remember the reason why. I think they said it's because they threw one before and it made it, I don't know. But anyways, it's like, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you have to keep trying and you have to set out to do something. And if you can, you know, you're working towards something specific, you'll figure it out along the way. But, yeah, I think there's a lot of good, you know, things that people can take away. And the thing that always frustrated me, and I've learned it more as I've been in business and as I've, you know, just maturity, is I would listen to all these podcasts and like listen to things about like, how do I become a big investor? How do I buy my rental properties? How do I flip houses? How do I, you know, be a realtor? All these things. And nobody would ever give a specific thing. And it would always frustrate me because I'm like, I just want to do one. Just tell me what you want me to do. If it's cold calling, tell me to cold call. If it's mailers, tell me to mail. If it's, you know, talk to 1,000 people, you'll get 20 transactions. But I feel like with maturity, you've just come to realize that, like you said, like you just, it's the daily actionable little things that add up to the big things. But it's also like the outcome is not, if you're just focusing on the outcome, it's almost impossible to reach that. Like if I want to flip 100 houses and every day I just wake up, I got to flip 100 houses. Like, and I'm not actually doing the actionable things to get there. But I guess in the same vein, not the thing that worked for you is not going to work for me. It could, you know, there might be things that work there, but it's also just learning how to be somebody who's going to serve other people, somebody who's going to provide a product that helps people, somebody who's going to, I don't know, maybe none of that made sense and maybe it doesn't make sense to you, but
makes sense.
It's just, just,
you were talking about like, how do you sort of predict success or whatever? What do you see as the common traits? And the traits that are common are not surface. They're not, for example, personality. And I can see people that are, if you picture a spectrum on whatever, and you could take people that are at the exact opposite ends of that spectrum, and they're both really successful in real estate. You're like, those people couldn't be more different. That's another clean sheet thing. That's another, let's pause. Okay, so how are they both? They both are achieving the same thing. The means, like what is common? What actually is the same between them? And so what you will find is they're both working their asses off. There are a number of those commonalities, but what they aren't is like personality, approach. You can find, let's say, people that are just, this would be me. I have no engineering mind, and I'm much more broad and general ideas. And you can find people that are incredibly detail oriented and to the finest, like everything's fully systematized, and they both can succeed really, really well. Well, people that are highly systematic would probably look at me and go, "How does the bozo make it? His head's in the clouds." And the easy thing would be for me to look and go, "You're just making lists. Like, go love on somebody, and you know whatever." But then if you look underneath, both are using what they have in service to the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
which is service, support, performance, um, all the things that are going to make somebody choose to work with you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have completely different skill sets and aptitudes and attitudes and proclivities and talents, and still do really, really well. It's what you put it in the service to. I always, this is way 20,000 feet, but I think most people, and I look, it's over time you get there. You just keep your eyes open, look around, and like, a lot of people are like contributing and they're giving, and a lot of people are just kind of taking. They're just kind of getting what they can.
Yeah.
And so I think we should consciously decide which of those we're going to be. And if we're really not, I said it, I tweeted this, I think once, but like you're either fundamentally creative or fundamentally destructive. And the people who are about others and trying to help or serve or perform for others tend to be fundamentally creative. And the people that are about themselves and like, what can I get from me? And how did that, they're kind of fundamentally destructive. And you kind of look behind them and you see there's kind of a trail of destruction there, or, oh my God, look at all the people following them and wanting to be like them and trying to, so I don't, not to get real negative and be cynical about people, but I think we do want to be careful ourselves and be self-aware enough to say, am I more of a giver or more of a taker?
Yeah.
It's a pretty good question to ask yourself.
For sure.
And to have some awareness about.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. What is, as we kind of wrap things up here, what is like one book that you could say, are you a big reader?
I haven't, I used to be.
Okay.
And I'm more like read for pleasure.
Gotcha.
I love reading, but not as much of the.
Yeah. Well, then what's your favorite book? Just in general. Pleasure or business, anything.
Oh, well.
Give me one business and one pleasure.
In business, I would encourage anybody to read The Mindset.
Okay.
Where it's going to.
I think I've seen that one. It's red and black, maybe. I feel like that's the mindset. I'll have to look it up. I'll post it. But, I'll tag it if I can find it.
It's a fundamental concept. What I found in reading it was, I'm like, this could be a pamphlet. This could be like 6 pages. Yeah. So it kind of goes, it's not real long by any means, but the concepts, the fundamentals are really simple. And as with most, there's some great stuff that you read that you go, I never ever would have thought of that. There's stuff that you read also that you go, oh my God, I knew that. I never articulated it specifically in my mind, and I found mindset to be more in that latter category of like, yes, this is saying all this stuff that I've learned, but it's putting in order and making real sense of it, of how there are fundamentally these two approaches and why they're different and why the results are different. I loved it from that standpoint.
Yeah. I've definitely read books like that. Like, this is going to sound bad, like How to Win Friends and Influence People. Like it doesn't, people read that book and they're like, oh man, it's going to teach me how to make friends. And literally the whole book is treat people the way you want to be treated. Yeah. Like, I mean, for better or for worse, like smile at people, treat people the way you want to be treated. Don't be mean. Like, don't talk bad. Like, it's all very basic things, but it's just put in
What's interesting to me about that, and I think it is relevant, is that's all about others, not about you.
For sure.
It's not like do this for you. Here's how you're going to get stuff from people. It's ask people questions. Be actually interested. Don't pretend to be interested.
Actually listen.
Actually be interested in people. So I want to finish one thing. We're going to go all the way back to almost the beginning.
All the way back.
Open houses. Yeah. I'm still a proponent. So I after my I sold for a while, then I managed an office forever, and then I had another role at another outfit for a little bit, and then I stepped away for about a year. A little over a year.
Dog barking in the background.
Yeah. He's like, you shouldn't step away.
Yeah.
And it was for me, just a necessary break. And it was a little, interruption it made a big difference for me. And so, and coming back to this and having been a manager for so long, I very rarely did an open house. So for 20 years, I've hardly done them, but I've trained them. And I've done enough to sort of stay in the game. And I know you have me thinking maybe I need to like open up an open house class to like everybody that wants to come in. Yeah. Because what I discovered, much to my surprise, is I've started to find immediately all kinds of buyers out of And so one thing that I think is probably the case historically, I've always felt like my experience has been like on a holiday or like it's a Colts game Sunday, you will have fewer people, but
People who are there are
they'll be the
quality.
real
Yeah,
deal.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
And so I think going back to, I think everything that you said is probably true in terms of they have the information, they've got the, it may be the case that what I'm observing, and this is, I've just done, I don't know, 6 or 8 of them, and I've got just a bunch of buyers that I'm working with.
This year.
But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, and like in the last couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but one of the things that maybe is happening is just, it's a little bit self-selecting.
Uh-huh.
Like those that do come through, they really are probably getting ready to buy a house.
Mm-hmm.
And there will always be a lot who have agents, but I have a whole system again.
I also could be just terrible.
Maybe
at it.
I'll, yeah.
I've always been a solo agent. Like I've never gone through like the, realtor 101 type thing.
Yeah.
I took the course and then I was an agent, and I've just been doing my own thing since
Yeah.
then. So the only things that I've, that I do are things that I've seen, so every time I go to one, I'm like, oh, I could do that at one in my next one, but there could be that. I could just be bad at it. So it might be interesting to talk to you or do a class.
Yeah, maybe I'll throw the class open now
Yeah.
that we're having this conversation and see if maybe there are 20 or 30 people that want to come talk about it.
Yeah. And then a book, just pleasure book.
Oh, this guy passed away in the last couple of years. My favorite humorous writer is P.J. O'Rourke, and he wrote one about government called. He wrote a bunch of good books, but there's one
humorous book about government.
Yes, it's called Parliament of Whores.
Okay,
and it's brilliant. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I'll have to try. I'll have to put that on a list and go read it then.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I might get through like 5 pages. It's taking me 1 of 2 things. I'll do the first chapter. Or I'll do the whole book. That'll be the 2 things.
And you'll know with reading PJ, you'll be like, right away, you'll be like, oh my God, this guy's funny.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Or you'll be like, yeah, no, I don't think so.
Gotcha.
It's a good, what he does really well a lot. And particularly in that specific book is he's actually knows what he's talking about. So there's the serious thing woven through it, but it's hilarious the way that he writes about it too.
Nice. Last question, and then we'll jump off of here. But if you had to restart your career, what's either the first thing you would do or the biggest thing you would do to create, a successful real estate career?
In most general terms,
whatever,
I would listen to everybody.
Yeah,
because one of the most consistent things that I've observed with new people, I did it. I've watched everybody do it. Is we all try to reinvent the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And as we discussed the other day, I always refer to it, I always say real estate's a mature business.
Mm-hmm.
It's already all been sorted out.
Mm-hmm.
Figured out what works and what doesn't work. That doesn't mean you can't be immensely creative and you can't apply your own personality and your own approach, very much so, to things. But it's like that on that spectrum of these people that are the opposite, but somewhere underneath there is this common, that common thing. Listen to that. When you're getting started. For example, everywhere you go, you're just going to hear so many experienced people say, look, you want to go meet strangers and find new people. It's your sphere, man.
Yeah.
It's the people that you know.
Yeah.
And then we all go try to meet strangers and then we all find out,
that doesn't work.
They were right. It was my sphere.
Yeah.
So the stuff that you're hearing from the more experienced agents, here is a caveat that I would put on that. When you start out, you can walk around your office. And you can always find somebody like me that'll go, oh, open houses are great.
Mm-hmm.
They're the best things since sliced bread. Go do open houses. You're going to make $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll walk to the next person. They'll go,
I've never done
never do an open house. They're a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
So everything that's available to you, you can find people that love it and people that hate it.
Yeah.
So the simple way to apply that is to say, I'm just going to try some different stuff that makes the most sense to me, that feels most like a fit to me. I would say don't try something for a week or 2.
Yeah.
The business doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
No less than at least like 6 months, maybe a year. And then at the end of 6 months or a year, if you can say, man, that just didn't work. I'm not getting traction there. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be stuff that works brilliantly for somebody else that just doesn't work for you. It's not like, I guess I can't be a good realtor. Sure you can. Because you probably can do something that you can just knock it out of the park that other person would be clueless.
Yeah,
so
that's really good. It's like get everybody's recipes and then make your own.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And by the way, don't let the perfect be the enemy of good. And,
Yep.
you know, failure is your friend.
Yep.
So just go do stuff.
Yep.
If you're not doing stuff, you're dead. If you're doing stuff, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's either going to succeed or not succeed. If it doesn't, then you just eliminated something else that's not going to work.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I think that's really good. I think that's any new realtor can pick up on that. It's just, you know, there's the very real aspect that, you know, you might just need to do something to make money. Like you might have to go get a part-time job or something, but you know, listen to people, see what they do, and then try it, and then keep trying it. You know, we're very, like we've talked about the whole time, we're very instant gratification. Like it's not going to be, you're not going to do one open house and get 3 buyers and then sell 3 houses. You might have to do 36. You might have to do it for a year and see what happens. But yeah, I think that's very good because it's, you know, it's not, everyone's thing is not going to be your thing, but you, like you said, no one's reinventing everything. They're just doing different things that are all pertaining to.
It's one of the best things about the business.
Yeah.
Anybody, theoretically anyway, just about anybody could do it.
Yeah.
They
want to?
They won't.
I don't know.
But
yeah. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it, Brian. I appreciate your time. There's a lot of, you know, good stuff in here for agents, for, you know, business owners, for anybody who wants to listen. So I think it was awesome. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it too.
All right. Thanks.